welcome back to Just One Question, episode God knows what. We feel like we've been in this pandemic for a long time now. We've got a ways to run, but the bright note today is I've got Cameron Herold with me, and I've known Cameron for a while now. He's a guy who always has some interesting perspectives and some thoughtful things to say, and he doesn't mince words, which is another thing I like about him. So I'm expecting pureed words, nothing minced on these next few minutes. Cameron is the founder of the COO Alliance, which brings a lot of value to those who are involved. So I recommend you look that up. And he's also the author of Double Double. Again, no minced words there. So for your word salad of the day, go to Double Double, which you can get on Amazon, I assume, or anywhere books are sold. Welcome, Cameron, and really glad to have you with us. And just tell us in a few words how you're doing.
Oh, good. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me. I think overall I'm pretty good. As you and I were kind of laughing before we hopped on, it is a bit of a Mrs. Lincoln question, right? Like, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? So how are we doing during COVID? I'm actually doing pretty well, except I've had to do 4 14-day solo self-quarantines. So I live in 2 countries, the US and Canada, and every time I go back to Canada, I have to stay at my home. I'm not allowed to leave the property for 14 days. The government checks in on you every 3 or 4. So that's been a bit of a pain in the ass, but I got my hip replaced 2 days before the whole lockdown started back in March, and my hip replacement has gone extraordinarily well. So I think I'm doing well overall.
That's great. Yeah. I guess it's never a good time to get a hip replacement if you didn't have to, but if you do, what perfect timing, because you could just focus on that while you're
wasn't going anywhere, and everybody was quite happy with me being over video, so it all worked out nice.
Yeah, exactly. So you may have the best hip replacement in North America. At least I hope so. All right. So my just one question for you is, we've been in this for a while. As I said, it looks like we've got a while to run. If there is a vaccine, it's going to take a while to get it to enough people for it to matter. So it may be well into 2021 before even whatever passes for normal life begins to happen again. So we're in this for a while, and that means you and I and everybody else has had to work out a daily schedule and a working modus operandi in largely in the virtual world. And so I'm just wondering what aspects of that are working well for you and perhaps were a pleasant surprise, and what aspects are working not so well, in fact, suck, just to be blunt. And so if you give us a bit of both, I'd be grateful.
I think the part that sucks is just the not being able to travel freely. In 2019, I traveled to 14 countries and was able to just explore the world and travel freely. And I've always done that. Every year, I've probably done at least 4 or 5. And so this year being in lockdown and not feeling the ability to travel freely has been frustrating. What's gone well, I've always worked remotely since leaving 1-800-GOT-JUNK, where I was the chief operating officer. I left there 13 and a half years ago. I've worked remotely behind the scenes coaching CEOs all over the world for the last 13 years, and I've done it over Zoom for the last 7, and then prior to that over Skype. So I've really been remote in all of my coaching work forever. What I've had to adapt to has been, I used to do a lot of paid speaking events as well. I've done paid speaking events in 26 countries on 6 continents. And this year, some big stages just stopped where I wasn't able to go and speak at these events, nor was I able to attend a lot of the big events that I usually go to where I get a lot of my lead generation from. But on the flip side, I've been doing a lot of paid speaking events over Zoom now. I just presented to a group in Australia. I presented to one in Saudi Arabia. I'm presenting to one later this week in Pakistan. So it's bizarre that these groups that couldn't necessarily afford to fly me, halfway around the world to go and speak at their events are easily paying for me to come in over Zoom. And I've been really pleased to see that that's gone well. So yeah, that's been a nice change. So I'm actually going to build that into my model more now, where I'm actually going to push for more of the Zoom speaking events with live Q&A so that I don't have the pain in the ass of travel. I don't have to go to the airport and travel to an event and have dinner in a crummy hotel. And, there's a lot of time that gets burned for that 90 minutes on stage.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I'm very curious to see how it shakes down in that future where we are able to have face-to-face events again. Um, I'm I'm curious just to ask you half a further question, just one question and a half for you, because I hadn't realized you'd been virtually coaching for so long. So you've got a lot of practice with it, and so for you, the transition was perhaps more seamless than it is for some. And I'm just curious, what tips do you have for those of us who haven't spent as long on Zoom, or feel like we spent way too much time on Zoom in the past 6 months, for coping with Zoom, making it work for you? What do you do to sort of make that day work as opposed to a face-to-face day?
Well, so one of the things that I've done, so I coach real companies, typically 50 to 500 employees is the zone that I coach in, where I'm coaching the CEO and the leadership teams. And for me, it's actually been going back to a notebook to take my notes during the calls. I have very, very high ADD, and I found that if I was typing up my notes, I could get very distracted on my calls, and I would flip over into an app, or I'd end up on social media, or I'd be listening to them and checking my email. So I've purposely now forced myself to take notes during the call just with a pen and paper, so that I stay away from technology. But outside of that, I think technology is amazing. I use an app called Otter, otter.ai, and it automatically starts recording all of my Zoom calls with clients, and it transcribes everything that we're saying. So at the end of the call, my clients get a video and the audio or and the text recording, so they can refer back to everything we've covered too. And that's been a powerful, nice little tool that you just don't get, in an in-person event.
Love it. Love it. So two quick tech tips from Cameron Herold, the genius of Zoom coaching. So thank you very much. Good to see you again, my friend. Take care of that time in COVID. Enjoy it, and I hope to see you back again one day in a conference or on the main stage.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, hopefully we get to have dinner next time I'm back in Massachusetts as well. It'd be good to catch up.
That would be.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks.